The bounty hunters. The eye doesn't like being watched back very much, and it closes quickly. Bike lets out a humming sound as he regards his equipment and the ever-shifting distances from each other his beacons have. We should try to get a beacon into one of those holes next time it shows up. Belay that. Such an act is undoubtedly provocative, and we want this thing calm and unconcerned with us. We're still not entirely sure what it can do, and so long as it still has surprises for us, I want it disinclined to use them. Pukey states, and after the group muses on that, they nod and start moving on. Room clear. Side storage room empty, the hat says as they're formed up on the next door. The facility itself has 5 central levels before the main mine shaft. We're currently on the 3rd of 5. Dead center, Bike says. You're in the system? Pukey asks. Barely. I've only managed to get basic access to the systems, and that's little more than a map and a general count of how many people are in the station and where they are. How many? Pukey asks. 11. We 10 are being detected, and 1 more that's moving around without fear or issue. I assume it's 2, Bike says, holding his screen out to the rest of them. It shows a 3D representation of the facility, and there are 10 dots gathered together and 1 2 levels above him that is moving around a lot. Any cameras? No, that's above my current access. I'm working on getting something else, but I can't get much further without some form of physical access. Do you know where the nearest terminal is? Pukey asks. The plans say there's one in every room, but I haven't seen a single terminal, nor any discrepancies in the walls to hint where one is hidden, Bike says. You should have said that earlier. Where in the room does this facility usually have a terminal? Pukey asks, and Bike points back to the door they entered from. Typically near the doors, but I've checked. If they're there, then they're dead and disconnected. He answers, and Pukey gestures for everyone to follow as he starts banging on the walls. A rattle is found, and after a little bit of searching and with some effort and a knife to pry things out a bit, a panel is removed from the wall. Inside is a terminal that, true to Bike's prediction, is dark and unpowered. Can this be used? Pukey asks, and Bike thinks hard. If Big If we can get power to it, there may be some files and access codes still inside it. But it's not part of the central system anymore, so beyond that, nothing. Bike answers, and Pukey nods. Good enough for me. Mustard, Itchy, you guys are to assist Bike in getting something out of that terminal. Everyone else is on guard duty. I want a warning even if you think it's your imagination. Eyes back, J3 says after a few moments. Pukey glances over just in time to see it close. You scared it. The eye shows up several times as the 3 more technically minded soldiers work. The mere 3 minutes it takes for them to restore power to the terminal feels like an hour, but soon enough Bike is typing on the keyboard and going down to root access files. The computer keeps asking for input, and he jury-rigs a false connection that receives input from his implant, although he does have to sacrifice a backup scanner to make it. Son of a bitch, Bike swears as his jury-rigged device fries and the terminal blue screens. It's a no-go, Captain. I gave my best, but it wasn't enough. We lose anything irreplaceable? Pukey asks in a bland tone. No. You hurt? No. Then it was just a minute or so lost. Did you learn anything? The system runs at a very weird and decidedly non-standard power level. Since this part was cut off, I can assume the other ones were as well due to system strain, meaning the wiring in here might need maintenance and could be fragile, Bike says, and even through the veil, Pukey smiles. Fantastic. That's perfect info. Not as good as overwrite control of this joint, but knowing one of the station's weaknesses is a win in my book. You did good, Pukey says with a smile. After all, he had just been told that he has the power to kill the power and then likely the entire station. If they need to strangle this place, they can. I said could be. There might have been a total overhaul of the station's wiring that left these terminals out. I'll need to check. Bike counters. And we will. We need to know the terrain more and more. Is there anything more you can get out of this place? The roof is a little high for casually opening it up to examine the wiring. There isn't going to be an easy place to do it. Bike responds and Pukey snorts. Then open the floor. We're in a multi-leveled complex. Our floor is the next level's ceiling. Mr. T notes and Pukey points to him. That's what I like to hear. Let's get prying, boys, Pukey says, and they spend the next 5 minutes looking for a seam in the floor. And there's my patience gone. You need a boost bike? I'll give you a boost. The Hat says after a little bit as he crouches down with his hands laced together. Better idea than mine. Get to that ceiling and see what you can see, Pukey says, and about 10 seconds later, Bike is pushing aside a ceiling panel as he stands on the Hat's shoulders and brings out a voltmeter to start scanning things. Oh yeah, these wires are dying, Bike remarks as he scans everything he can get near. The sheer dissonance between the range on these things. He pulls out another tool. Yep, these wires are cooking, and that's without me so much as poking them. This whole place should have been condemned a long time ago. He hops off the Hat's shoulders and offers the bigger man a salute of thanks, and it's returned. Good. Let's keep our eyes open for any other failings in the old base. Even if we don't take advantage of them, bringing them up to 2 might help us get on her good side. Pukey orders, and there's some nodding. They move out and check into the next room. There's a sensation, and Bike checks his gear. There's been a shift in the alternate realm. The signal is much weaker, and the general distances between our beacons are at different intervals. I wonder what we'll run into next, Dong asks, and then snorts. Well, good to know we're not following narrative causality or the rules of irony. Did you honestly expect to fall through the floor and into the next pocket realm after saying that? Tang questions him. Maybe. You can't tell me that this mission hasn't been 20 levels of weird. Dong replies before Pukey shushes them both and then points to his nose while audibly taking a sniff. Everyone starts paying attention, and below the chalk scent that had been clinging to them and rising above the scent of rotting vegetation that was almost gone is an iron-like smell that is very familiar to all 6 of them. Pukey points to the door where the stink is flowing from, and they form up on either side of it. Mr. T opens the door, and the room is quickly greeted by a flood of dark red blood. The stink is immense, but off. Something is off about the smell, and as they watch it suddenly falls into a large area of the floor and drains away. That wasn't there a second ago. I stepped onto that part of the floor. Itchy comments as they watch the torrent of blood drain away. From floor to floor to floor, there's the source, the Hat says, pointing into the room, and they see the small geyser of blood shooting upwards and draining away to the invisible hole in the floor beyond them. It then abruptly cuts off, and they're left in short order with a dark red film of quickly congealing blood all over their armored ankles and feet. If we see a pair of girls asking us to come play with them, then my vote is we get the fuck out and just level the place from orbit. J3 notes. Dude, you're in high-grade military armor, armed to the point that everyone within line of sight and beyond it, if you've got a good spotter, is in extreme danger of you, and you have literal space magic. I think you'll be fine if we see a crazed author with an axe. Dong returns, and there's some chuckling. Well, pardon the fuck out of me if I've watched a few too many horror movies. J3 snipes back, and Pukey steps up beside him and puts a hand on his shoulder. Sir? My child, thou art pardoned. Pukey intones formally and holds it for a few moments, trying not to laugh. The tension bleeds away, and they all file into the next room and start stomping around and banging on the walls and ceiling to check to see if the portal to the blood realm hasn't just shifted. It's gone entirely. They turn back to check on where the hole had opened in the floor, and it's gone, just in time for the blood and all sign of it to start to fade away. disintegrating as if it never was. Well, at least our haunted hotel is clean, J3 notes. We're not in the shining J3, Pukey says as he examines his own armor. The disintegration of the blood is considerably slowed down there, which means the effect is axiom-based and therefore something they can understand, fight against, and even use themselves if they have to. This is not a ghost or a haunting. It's an axiom using clone-born entity, possibly even friendly if we play our cards right. And what will we do if it's friendly? Take it home and call it Waffles? Itchy asks. I was thinking that we hold off on that discussion until we know what it is, beyond use's axiom, Pukey says, before gesturing to the further door, and they form up. It opens and they peer through into the room. Break! They rush in and hear the clatter of many feet and rush forwards, just in time to see a room with rapidly vanishing bloody footprints in the floor. Prints in the exact same pattern as their armor. Are those? Bike asks. Stay back with half the team and watch our six while we check, Pukey says, and Air Farce, the Hat, Itchy, and Tang follow him to the open door and they look through. He sees Bike looking back. It's linked the damn doorways. We need to move laterally. They all start checking the walls and ceiling, stomping as they move around until J3 starts jumping up and down on one spot that the sound is ever so slightly off on. He starts picking at the carpeted floor and an entire section starts to peel away. He rolls it up as everyone gathers around and he grabs a latch sunken into the floor ever so slightly. The entire panel lifts and they look down into complete darkness. Well, if that's not an ominous invitation, I don't know what is, Pukey says as his flashlight completely fails to penetrate the darkness. J3 pokes it with his rifle and it passes through as it's just darkness, somehow impenetrable with light, but just darkness. All right, everyone shut up, Bike says, lowering a camera on a stick into the blackness. It pulls slightly sideways and then he pulls up the device before frowning. Not a barrier. Perhaps light just doesn't work there. The Hat begins, but Bike shushes him. He pulls out another device and holds it part way in. Sonar still works. It's just another building. Bike confirms. No visual, no entry. I'm not going to have us staggering around blind, Pukey says, before everyone takes a step back. They're deliberately ignoring the axiom to avoid any attack from that vector, but they all felt that. The darkness bubbles up and starts spreading around the floor. Area's still looped, sir, Mr. T notes. Well, it appears we don't have a choice. We're going into the dark, Pukey growls out. Is this a hostile act? Depends what else is in the darkness. Use your ears, gentlemen. You have just as many ears as eyes. They're just as important. So start cribbing the comics and get biosonar figured out, Dong asks. That's an order, soldier, Pukey says, even as the darkness erupts out of the walls and ceiling as well. Entity, if you can hear this, understand that we will not be taking this lightly. Are you sure you want to pressure us? The spread of the darkness does not halt in the slightest, and it engulfs the room. There's a shift, and all 10 men are plunged into absolute blackness. Sound check. Can everyone hear me? Pukey asks after a few moments. Sir, the Hat says. He's to the left and forward a step. Yes, Mustard adds. He's on the Hat's left. Confirmed. J3 says a step behind Pukey and to the right. Here, Dong says, and there's a slight strain to his voice. He's several steps away and to the right. Radar sense is a bitch. It is, Tang confirms. He's next to Dong. I don't like this. Itchy says he's the furthest away yet, and from the sound of things he's next to a wall. Me neither. Mr. T adds he's closest to Itchy, but several steps away, closer to a corner. Shh, you hear that? Air Farce asks. He's near one of the doors. We're not alone here. Bike finishes. Our tech is useless. I can't see the readings my sonar is getting. Then use your ears. Pukey orders and everyone quiets down. Then they all hear it. a wet, gurgling sound in the darkness.